Hello my friends and welcome to 7 Cryptic Tales from Japan, translated by Saya in Underworld. A cryptic story is a short story that has a hidden meaning within it. Can you guess the meanings in these mysterious stories? Here's 7 Cryptic Tales from Chan, translated by Saya. I was out for a walk when I heard a woman's loud scream. Startled, I ran to the place where I heard the scream come from and saw a woman sitting on the road in front of an iron plate measuring around 2 meters in length, 2 meters in width, and 50 centimeters thick. I tried to talk to the woman, but she was too stunned to talk. A man dressed in construction worker's clothes came up to me and explained what had happened. It seemed the iron plate was dropped to the ground while they were working overhead on the building. It looked like nobody got hurt. The woman just fell to the ground due to shock. But I felt shivers run through me as I looked at the black iron plate on top of the red tiles. I went home after that, but in the late afternoon before the sun set, I visited the scene of the accident again. The iron plate was still there, probably due to its very heavy weight. They hadn't yet been able to remove it. The area was cordoned off with the security guard standing in front of it. The woman I had seen earlier was still there. I went to talk to her. What happened earlier must have been quite shocking. The woman replied, "Yes, I was so shocked, especially when I heard the scream." My friend told me this story. He lives in a high-rise apartment building. Because he lives on the 14th floor, he needs to use the elevator. One time, in the middle of the night, he came back from work. He got on the elevator and pushed the button for the 14th floor. Then, just as the door closed and the elevator started moving, the button for the 8th floor lit up. Wonder if someone else is waiting to get in. Immediately after he thought that, he realized something and quickly pressed the buttons for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors successively. The elevator went past the 2nd floor, but luckily it stopped on the 3rd floor, and then he impatiently forced his way through the leisurely opening doors and ran outside. He ran down the stairs and left the building. He then spent the whole night reading magazines in the nearby convenience store until day broke. Perhaps it was nothing, but you never know. He smiled as he said it, but even today he still avoids using the elevator in the middle of the night. A star descended to a little girl. "Anything you wish, I will grant it to you, but only for once," said the star. The girl had been crying. "Please make everyone in my family disappear. I really hate them." The next morning when she woke up, she went downstairs to the dining room, but her mother, father, and big brother were all there as usual. The girl was sorry that she had made such a wish. That evening, the star appeared to her again. "Are you happy now?" asked the star. The girl said, "Please, can I take back the wish I made yesterday?" The star said, "Once a wish is fulfilled, you cannot take it back." The girl cried. "One day I killed my little sister because she annoyed me. I threw her body down the well. The next day when I checked the well, the body had disappeared. 5 years later, I killed my friend after a row. I threw his body down the well. The next day when I checked the well, the body had disappeared. 10 years later, I killed a woman I got pregnant in a drunken daze. I threw her body down the well. The next day when I checked the well, the body had disappeared. 15 years later, I killed a boss I hated. I threw his body down the well. The next day when I checked the well, the body had disappeared. 20 years later, I killed my mother because she had become bedridden and I didn't want to look after her. I threw her body down the well. The next day when I checked the well, the body had not disappeared, and the body remained there for days and days and days. On the way to work, I always walk past an empty apartment block, which is due to be demolished soon. The place, however, has become a famous suicide spot because people keep jumping off it. I've heard rumors of ghost sightings in and around the building, too. One night, I had worked overtime and had to walk past it around 11 p.m. I was really scared. Then I thought I spotted some shadow on the rooftop of the building. Thought my heart would stop right there. I looked carefully again, and this time I was sure that there was a person standing on the rooftop. Oh no, is it a ghost? Just as I thought that, the shadow jumped off. I heard a crash and saw a woman's body sprawled on the concrete road. I immediately called an ambulance and rushed to the woman's side. She was bloody all over, and her legs were twisted in weird directions. She wasn't a ghost, but the whole thing scared me. I saw some people leaning over the balconies of the apartment and thought they must have heard the crash and come out to see what was going on. Soon the ambulance arrived and took her away. I went home but couldn't sleep for the rest of the night because I kept replaying the accident in my mind. The next day I was informed that the woman was severely injured but alive. I'm glad it ended up just as a suicide attempt. If she had died, it would have left me with such a trauma. I obtained a copy of the Book of Curse. In the beginning of the book it said, "If the steps are followed precisely, according to the instructions, it will lead to the activation of curse. However, if the steps are followed incorrectly, the curse will rebound on the caster himself. Are you still willing to proceed?" Of course. I have someone I will never forgive as long as I live. That's why I went so far as to getting my hands on this Book of Curse. I began following the instructions. Step 1. First, close your eyes and picture the face of the person you want to cast the curse on. Easy. His face is the one thing I could never forget even if I wanted to. I pictured his face as clearly as possible in my mind's eye. Okay, done. Let's have a look at the next step. Step 2. Imagine what kind of curse you want to activate. That is also easy. I will put him through every kind of human suffering imaginable on Earth and make sure he dies in great pain. Alright, done. What's next? Step 3. Finally, open your eyes. Before a business trip, my colleague told me that the hotel which I was staying was haunted. That night I was trembling from fear as I went to bed. Sure enough, in the middle of the night, I heard some knockings on the door. At first I thought it was someone from the hotel service, and I asked the person what he wanted, but there was no answer. I was afraid to look in the direction of the door and ended up just lying there awake while the relentless knocking continued throughout the night. In the morning, as soon as the knocking halted, I hurried to the front desk and checked out. I told my colleague about the knocking after I got back, and he said, "I knew this would happen," and he told me a story about an incident that happened at the hotel a long time ago. The hotel was once set on fire, and there was a guy who failed to escape. This guy, unfortunately, got trapped inside his room and died right there. Whew, that was close. It makes me shudder to think what would have happened if I'd opened that door. For more translated stories from Saya, visit Saya and Underworld. The music accompanying the stories is by composer Kran Song. Links in the blog to Saya and Underworld and Kran Song is in the description below. That's all the time I have for today, my friends. I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening. I'm Imori. Now, listen to the spooky tunes. For more translated stories from Saya, visit Saya and Underworld. Blech, I'm dying.